Guobadia is joining me right now. He's the energy analyst at Stears Business. Osato was also a senior associate at KPMG, as well as a software engineer. Hello, Osato. Are you there?
Yes, I am, Nancy. Good morning.
Good morning, Osato. How are you?
I'm great. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you. I don't know, why is it that anytime we get to speak, it's about fuel, it's about energy, it's about fuel price increase or something. What's happening? I'm getting tired. Is it that these issues will continue to talk about it and there seems to be no solution?
No, I pray for the day that I'll come on to talk about a decrease in petrol price. That'll be good news for everybody.
But Sato, honestly, just tell me, even as an energy analyst, you've been writing about those things, at least in the past few years. I've been speaking about those things for as long as I can remember. Sometimes, aren't you tired of also saying the same thing, the same thing, the same thing? People see me outside sometimes and say, Nancy, they tire. Now, one thing when they talk every year, things they change.
No, I mean, you're right. It's like this cycles keep continuing. We're just in another cycle of they've removed the subsidies and now petrol price wants to increase and people are not happy. The same thing happened in 2012. It's a cycle. I can definitely see that.
Okay, let's talk about the recent controversy. We saw the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, PPPRA Silva, coming out a few days ago to say that neither he nor President Buhari was informed of that, brouhaha that happened at the PPPRA, talking about the price templates, the upper band at 212 and what have you, and apologize to Nigerians for the inconveniences. But when all those things was happening, I was taking a look at the fuel price. In fact, petrol stations increased it immediately as if they were waiting for that. What's your own assessment?
Yeah, so what happened is very simple, right? So when we moved the petrol price to 160 Naira in September, the oil price was about $40. Today, oil price is about $70 and petrol price is still 160 or 165 in some places. So oil price has almost doubled, petrol price is still staying the same. It's still staying the same. So what is clear to everybody is that that is not sustainable. Something has to give, right? So, we've been so PPPRA merely put out the templates saying what the actual cost of petrol should be given the cost of the oil price, right? I mean, for those in the energy analysis community, it wasn't a surprise, but we knew what the price was already. But it was reported that PPPRA has increased the petrol price, and what we saw was that some fuel stations, took advantage of that to actually increase their own price, while others were still selling at 165. So naturally, everybody wanted to get fuel from the ones that were selling at 165, and that is what caused the fuel scarcities that we saw in Lagos, Abuja, and some other parts.
What category of filling stations were selling for 165? Because some people also reported to me that some of the NNPC filling stations were closed during that period. Some other filling stations also capitalized on that, what the government called an unfortunate event or decision, and increased the fuel price. So which category of filling stations were selling for 165 or thereabouts?
Right. So, I mean, in essence, that's what happened. It was a misunderstanding, right? The PPPRA was not intending to increase the petrol price. That is what at least they have said. They were merely just putting information out there for the analyst community. Some people think that they were trying to gauge the reaction of Nigerians to a petrol price increase, right? And we've seen the reaction. People are not happy. We saw it on social media. I mean, in terms of what category, I stay in Lagos, on the island, and I was able to surprisingly easily buy petrol at 165, right? So it was a case of some depending on where you are, some stations were taking advantage to sell at a much higher price. But in some other parts of Lagos, there was fuel easily, you could easily get it. But we see this every time there's this kind of thing happening. There's this, when these things happen, having information is the key for individual citizens. Having information about which petrol station is selling at what price, we see that is what makes the biggest, that's what is most helpful at that time.
Osato, if we take a look at it, honestly, should PPPRA really be blamed for that pricing template? Because theirs is to release it. When they released that it was lower, every person adjusted. So when they released now that the upper band was 212, I think the lower band 206, there was this cry all over the country, and the minister came forth to release a statement. Should the PPPRA really be blamed for that? Because for putting the price at the upper limit of 212 doesn't mean that that is what it will sell. But though we know that band, someone must pay for it. I'm just talking about the responsibilities of the PPPRA.
That is a very good question. And, you know, you said it exactly right. So in the past, we looked to PPPRA to, kind of dictate what the price should be, right? And obviously, we know last year we switched to a market-based system where there is no one industry, no one organization can state what the global price, what the national price of petrol should be. So there's there's a world where you don't blame the PPPRA for that, and you say that, okay, it's a gradual adjustment by the media, by the analysis community to kind of understand that, okay, the PPPRA is no longer setting the price, right? All they can do is give a guide, right? But unfortunately, it was reported as they were increasing the price. So maybe people had not adjusted to the idea that PPPRA no longer sets the price. On the other hand, it's like I said before, it's possible that this was to gauge the reaction of Nigerians to what the petrol price increase could be. Because, remember, the federal government and the Nigerian Labour Congress have been in conversations for a long time about increasing the petrol, about whether or not to increase the petrol price, right? Last year, the federal government was strong that there was no going back on subsidies at all. The minister, I can't count how many times the JMD of the NNPC came out and said it. The minister came out and said it. Minister of State came out and said it. What we're saying that it's difficult, but federal government clearly does not want to go back to the subsidy route where we're subsidizing the price of petrol. But it's 50-50 which way this will go, because things are tough for Nigerians. We're just coming out of a recession. We're still dealing with some slight effects of COVID in some places. So things are tough. 50-50 whether the subsidy can come back or not.
Subsidy, subsidy, subsidy. Fuel subsidy. One word that hasn't gone out of our economic ecosystem, at least in the past, in many years now. From what we're seeing, that means the government is still paying for subsidy.
So what the NNPC has said was that they have petrol in stock to last through at least the month of March without having to reflect the global oil price and petrol prices. That's what they said. But yeah, we would have to wait till the NNPC releases its monthly reports in July, August to tell if there was actually subsidy payments in January, February, right? But what we know is that the government does not want to pay subsidies. But it's a tough decision for them, right? If they pay subsidies, if they start paying subsidies again, the industry is taking a step back. We've promised international people that have loaned us money, like the IMF, that we wouldn't go back to paying subsidies. Nancy, I don't envy the person that has to make that decision.
Yeah, so you've just raised a very salient point, because when we were also giving that facility, what do they call it? The RFI, Rapid Financing Instrument, I think, yes, from the IMF. I don't want to call it conditions, but they will put all those things. They will marry the money with it, and for us to do 1 or 2 or 3 things. And I think that was also part of it, because I also spoke to even the World Bank officials, the World Bank country director and the lead economist a few weeks back. And they mentioned to me, okay, that they're saying that we've removed subsidies and all of that, So those kind of conditions are touched. Just as we round off at this, what's your outlook really? Because we've seen oil prices also moving to the upside in terms of Brent crude, which our own Bonnie Light is benchmarked against. We've seen meetings from OPEC Plus, at least 2 weeks ago or so. We've also seen their actions. What do you think vis-a-vis our oil production, vis-a-vis our oil imports, vis-a-vis that our refineries are not optimal. Because Labour, for example, have said that they are not against deregulation, but fix our refineries, because even if you deregulate, you are still going to be exporting those jobs if our refineries are not working.
Right.
I hope you can follow what I've asked. Just have.
Yeah. I mean, so if we look at it, right, last year it was the pandemic that really caused the price of crude oil to fall, right? And it's the same thing we're seeing now. As more countries are getting more people are getting vaccinated globally. We're seeing good results in countries like the US, some parts of Europe as well, and even Nigeria has started its vaccination campaign. So as more people get vaccinated, things start to return to normal. We start having to see this, the number of flights starting to see a good number of flights of planes flying between countries. We start seeing more people, more cars on the road. All these things would increase the demand for crude oil and the price of crude oil. So all things being equal, that will reflect in our petrol price as well. I wish I could sit here today to tell you that, it's looking like the petrol price would decrease sometime this year. There's just not information to make that assertion. It's looking like, it's looking like it will be sustainable. It will be unsustainable at 165. So it will probably have to increase at some point.
All right.
And I know many of your viewers would not like to hear that. But yeah,
there's so much gloomy news around the country right now, especially around this ecosystem, the economic ecosystem. Thank you very much, Osato, for joining me today. Osato Guobadia, who is the energy analyst at Stears Business.